Welcome back to Behind the Dream podcast. It has been a while. It's been almost 3 weeks. Today we have a very special guest, someone in a different industry than we usually bring on. I'll let you introduce yourself.
Sounds good. I will. So, long story. I'll go through it super fast. I was a tennis dude. I actually, and you probably didn't even know this, but I used to play semi-professional tennis,
I did not know.
college tennis. Semi-professional is more like the low level.
Yeah. You coach it too now.
Played college. Yeah. Now I get to coach my kids.
Awesome.
And so I did college tennis. And then I thought, okay, like, what am I going to do? Schooling really wasn't my best thing.
Yeah.
I just found ways to pass classes. And so I always wanted to be an entrepreneur, but tennis was my thing. So after that, I ended up teaching tennis, started my own tennis program, grew that for 3 years, grew it from 5 kids to 50 kids to 120 kids, ended up 280 kids just all around the Utah area. I was like the hustler putting up flyers everywhere and like calling parents and who do you know? And then eventually I got my dream job. So I thought I ran a tennis club from age 24 to 28 years old. And I thought, this is cool. This is it.
Yeah.
But what was interesting is you hit a ceiling, and I never even knew what that ceiling was. And I realized I can't make any more money. I mean, you can raise your prices a little bit, but I'm going to have to work more hours. I got up at that point to about 70 an hour, which nowadays would be about $100 an hour. And when you give your cut to the tennis club, and then you take your cut, and then you're paying taxes, like, what am I going to do?
Yeah, there's no growth.
Charge $5 more an hour. So then I thought, all right, well, I'm going to build a tennis club. And then I realized they don't really build tennis clubs anymore. They actually tear them down and put in real estate.
Yeah.
So I started picking everybody's brains. I mean, similar to what you do now.
Yeah.
And I'm like, this felt like a young hustler to you. You're like 28 years old. That's old. Well, it was actually 25 to 28.
Okay. So that in that time you were, what was the like first thing where you're like, oh, I want to become an entrepreneur? Was it kind of that realization?
I always wanted to be an entrepreneur. I just thought it was going to be through tennis because that was the thing I was most comfortable about, right? I knew it. I was an expert.
Yeah.
And so at the tennis club, I learned a very valuable lesson. You're around all these successful people. And I just started asking, what did you do? How did you make your money? And every single one of them I would just ask, what do you suggest for me? And it was crazy to me because I didn't realize that successful people, they love those that are hungry and young and ambitious. And it's almost like part of their legacy to impart that wisdom. So I'm going over to this guy's house. At that time, he was #1 spammer on the internet. And I'm going over to his house and picking his brain, and he's helping me out. And then I'm meeting with, other people that sold their companies for over $1 billion, and then others that are just successful multimillionaires. You had everything from real estate developments, right? Hard money loans, internet companies, anything and everything. And
that's so interesting because, like, what you're saying, you're in the perfect environment to be asking those questions. It's like if you owned or like we're in a golf community. Or like a golf, like ran a golf thing. It's the same thing, golf, tennis, all those like sports. So I congratulations to you to like stepping up and asking those people, because I mean, there's plenty of people that do tennis tournaments or tennis like things, and they never ask people questions. And they like you said, they love to talk to. I mean, even you, like, I mean, that's why you're on this podcast. Like, I love just asking people's brains, like picking people's brains on stuff, especially people like older than me that have like found success, because you're able to just learn so much. And I always view just knowledge as like shortcuts, like just big shortcuts.
And I look at it even now. I think of some of the things that I do for free, some of the things that I help out in communities. I mean, I get to coach high school tennis teams for free now to give back because I'm able to. People don't ask questions. I mean, I can think of people that I'm pretty close with, and in the last 5 years, I can think of 10 people. And I was doing this training on it, and that's why I started thinking of different people. They haven't asked me once.
Why do you think that is?
I don't know.
Do you think it's like I have this, you can even, so I wrote this up on my mirror the other day. What is, I can't read it. What is this?
You find yourself when you
lose yourself in the service of others. So like I've been kind of focusing recently on that. I've started to see with this social media era, where everything's social media, and like you're like, it's come to the sense where it's like, back in the day, there was Instagram, and like people would post on Instagram, maybe not. But now with TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, at least like everybody, especially in America, is on some sort of social media, and they're posting something about their life. Like majority of people. And I think we're kind of in this like loop where people kind of get like focused so much on them, their problems, their desires, their goals, their everything. I've found that for me. That's why I wrote that up there, because I feel like it's come to this sense of like people don't really want, like ask for information, especially with TikTok. You scroll, you get so much information a day. It's like when you go out in the world, no one's like ball, like trying to absorb it all. People are just like depleting their negative energy into the world because they've just scrolled all day. I don't know. That's just my like take on it. Because I feel like people, I don't know. I didn't grow up back in the day, but I feel like back in the day, especially when there wasn't so much media and so much like availability, it was like people would ask more questions. People would have deeper conversations because like that's all you had.
I mean, it's just crazy. And some of these are adults that you would think they would just ask simple questions. Because I mean, you and I know, and we won't go into detail on some of it, but you and I both know there's certain things and certain investments through connections and people you talk with. And through those things, I've been able to make a lot of money through connections. And I think if these people only just asked, hey, what are you most excited about? Do you have any investments? What do you do? Details like that, it would make a difference. And there were some things that I learned early on that people taught me. They said, questions are the answers. Ask a lot of questions. Other things I was taught, a friend told me he had a mentor that he calls his $100 million mentor. And he asked him, he's like, what do I do to be successful? And this mentor said to him, he said, go find someone that has what you want and ask them, how do they do it?
Yeah.
I mean, it's crazy simple, but it's almost like when we're young, we dream really big. We can do anything and everything. And all of a sudden people get jobs and they get out of high school and they've got these huge dreams. And then all of a sudden life hits them in the face. And those dreams start to get really dusty to the point of they turn in from optimists when they're really young and they think they can do anything they want to becoming older where it's like nothing's possible anymore. And so for me, that's a really big thing as you go, is always just challenging all those things. And so for me to continue on from that, it was 2008, had an individual that had, made a ton of money, super successful guy.
How old were you at this point?
2008, I was 28 years old.
Oh, okay. And what were you doing?
So that's when I was transitioning from the tennis club, and this guy comes and hits me up, and he's like, "Look," he said, "I'm going to teach you how to have success." He said, "I'm going to teach you how to market. I'm going to teach you how to do, speak and coach and all these things." We're like, "I'm not interested in speaking or coaching." He's like, "That's fine. That's fine." And I went through that journey. And so I really started with just a product-based company, started with one of the typical direct sales network marketing companies. And when I started, it was funny because I'd said no to 11. I'm like, look, I don't do those stupid things. Those things are like someone hypes you up, how you can make a ton of money, and it's the blind leading the blind, and it's clueless telling clueless how to become more clueless. And also, to be honest, from a pride standpoint, I felt really embarrassed going from tennis instructor to doing something like that. And he said, look at my lifestyle. He's like, I haven't worked in the last 10 years. I get to spend all my time with my family. And I thought, okay, I'm like, can you teach me? And so he taught me. I built
So did you know this guy? Because like that's a rare thing. Because I find it like I have a couple like friends like that, and I'm like I read like How to Win Friends and Influence People. I love that book, but it also like messed me up because I'm always like trying to create value for people before I like not even ask for value, but I just kind of want back and forth. And so I have a couple people like that, and it's interesting because they don't like come to me and say that, especially if there's not like, if you haven't provided value for them, and they're busy people. Like he's the successful person I'm imagining, and like, so how did you know him? How did you?
So you're 100% right. You always, anytime you're networking, you want to provide as much value 100%. As you can, and especially to the right people. And I knew he was successful. He wanted me to teach his kids tennis. And I said, look, I got a waiting list of about 100 people. He's super smart. He comes to me and he says, what do you want? Like, what do you mean? He said, you got to be exhausted from teaching tennis all day. He's like, you can't do this the rest of your life. And I look at him, I'm like, you little punk. And I said, okay. He said, great. He said, come over to my house. At this time, 2008, he's got the Iron Man R8 that was like brand new Audi. He's got a plane. He's got a sand volleyball court, tennis court, outdoor theater, pool house, pool.
What
He's
industry
got
was he in?
everything. He was part of direct sales network marketing.
Oh, that's how you got in.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
But he also owned tons of commercial real estate, tons of land, tons of other investments. And so for a couple of years, I'd go over to his house and he'd just teach me about finances. He gave me all these personal development books. Back in the day, it was on an iPod. So I listened to,
Awesome.
I think it was 18 books in 6 months.
Wow.
And
Awesome.
From that point, I transitioned into direct sales network marketing, built my business in 40 countries. And then the short version of that is eventually got out. I created the largest merger in the history of our industry. I had a lot of fun traveling and speaking. I got better and better at speaking.
But I thought you said, because I was going to get into speaking, but I thought originally you didn't want to do speaking and coaching. Dude. What was the transition there? Because this, I don't know if you know this, but in the like top 10 of like biggest fears of people is public speaking.
Yeah.
And I've currently
Bigger
gone
than
through
death.
that. Yeah. Yeah. So
Yeah.
Some people would rather die than speak in front of a crowd of even 50 people. Like it's a big fear people have. What was it? What was that like switch, or how did you kind of get over that speaking fear? Because that's a big struggle.
Yeah, it's interesting. So I got into coaching, consulting, and public speaking for sales type companies.
Okay.
And now I get to do a lot of mastermind speaking events. I spoke the last couple weeks. I just did one in Dallas, did one in Vegas, all these different types of events. And so how it happened is I just started speaking because I had success. They asked me to speak and I wasn't very good at it for about 7 years. And then eventually you start getting a little bit better, right? 7 years of it is pretty bad. I mean, to give you an idea, when everyone says they're scared, it's taboo if the church leader asks you to speak in church and you say no. I said no till I was 19 years old. Mm-hmm. The church leader showed up to my house and I said, look, you could call me up from the pulpit and I will walk out. That's how scared I was.
Yeah. No, most people are that way.
So I didn't even want to say a line. Like even growing up as a 12-year-old, walk up and you say a sentence. I refused. And so I finally got to the point where I was average after 7 years of just consistently doing it because I was forced to, because I had success and they're like, hey, can you share your story? You're going to have more success if you share it. So I'm like, okay, it's worth it. I'll do it. And then eventually it just led into more and more and more where companies like, hey, can you come speak for me? Different entrepreneurs, can you come speak for me? And so I started paying attention more and more and more to the point of eventually I'm like, okay, look, I got to charge money for this. So I went and met with your dad and I met with Woody and we spent a good 4 hours and I actually sent him the screenshot of all my notes from, this is probably 5 years ago, which it seems like 15 years now. And I look at all these notes and it was like how to sell on stage and when to share this story and that story and how to create a stackable close and all these things that are funny now, but at the time I'm freaking out.
Yeah.
So I go and I speak and it actually happened to be here in Salt Lake City and I asked them if I could sell and they said yes. And I remember the biggest rush still to this day. I made 35 grand.
Yeah.
My first time ever speaking. I spoke for an hour. I'm
That's
calling
so
your dad
awesome.
just freaking out.
He's told me this story.
And he's just like
it.
so excited. And since then it's just been fun speaking. All over the world, running my own events.
Yeah.
Pre-COVID, I had 3 years in a row. I had events in Australia. I was running an event in Europe.
Nice.
Every single year.
That's so sick.
Canada. And
what are these events now? Because like I know you did a lot with like networking and consulting and like stuff like that. But the like what do you now speak on? Oh, and also to jump back, I want to know what like 3 tips like to someone watching that. Because most people aren't interested in public speaking, but you'll come to find out that public speaking is very, very valuable. And I never wanted to get into public speaking. And same thing with the church. I remember I had to speak one time in church, and there was I wanted to throw up the drive there, and like it was awful. And now I'm like so interested in it because I've seen the value in it and social media. It's like, okay, well, if I can do that on social media, I can do that to people in person and to create a more like intimate thing. And so I've pushed myself to do more public speaking. I have 2 events I'm speaking at in December, and then an event I'm speaking at in January. I'm super excited for that, but it's still like nervous. What would you say to get over that fear or like kind of push past that, as well as what do you speak about mostly now?
Yeah, so mostly what I speak about now, I can speak about anything from personal development to I can go into sales techniques, strategies, marketing strategies. It just depends, right? I mean, I had Jimmy, you just spoke for Jimmy Rex. He's like, hey, can you come speak? I'm like, sure. I'm like, what topic? He's like, whatever you want. So, right, I knew who the audience was, so I could cater the message to them specifically. There's certain principles that apply because principles are timeless, right? They can apply to any industry, and then you're going to cater some of the wording towards it.
Yeah.
I would say everybody needs to learn public speaking, even if you're not planning on being a public speaker, because it helps you to better communicate. I mean, even if you're going to have an interview with someone, if you're a good public speaker, you're going to be better at communicating and conveying your message. It's like sales, right?
Oh, wow. Yeah, I never thought about that.
So
even like a relationship. Like if you learn how to public speak, like learning how to get your message across.
Everything.
Wow.
So it's like people misinterpret. They think public speaker, I got to go speak to thousands of people. And that's not the case. And sometimes it's a small group. Like think of public speaking now. Like these kids are blown away. High school team, they just took state 3rd year in a row. And like we're doing mental toughness the last 2 weeks. That's what our focus is. And I get to take all these things that I teach and they come in and they're blown away. So you think I'm helping out from that perspective. So from helping out communicating with my kids, like all different things, it can help you. So first thing I would tell you, here's a huge tip that almost nobody talks about. You want to become a great public speaker? Study comedians.
Oh, yes, 100%.
They're the best.
They're the best public speakers.
They're the best because they're the ones that have the toughest critics and the toughest audiences. And even if you're not planning on being the funniest person in the world, it's the easiest way to connect is some sort of humor. Now, your humor may be dry. Your humor may be sarcastic. Your humor may be, complete serious face. Everyone's a little bit different. So just go on Netflix, watch some. There are books as well that you can buy that you can help study. There's also a TED Talk. I think it was Chris Bailey who, I don't know if he's still running, was running TED Talks, and he wrote a book. It's the best book on public speaking. So that'll help you. And then when you public speak, what I like to do is I like to have one main through line. So a theme, like a movie has a main theme.
Okay.
So rather than having a bunch of, you can have little sub themes, but everything times into the main theme. And so if I have that main theme, I make sure I crush the beginning, I crush the end. Because sometimes you get up there to speak and you got an hour and all of a sudden they're like, you got 40 minutes. Yeah. If I've got the beginning down and I have the end down, then the rest I can fill the middle with stories.
Yeah.
And it depends on how much time you have to get through those stories to make it happen. And honestly, the best way to get good at it is study it and do it. I mean, as much as you tell yourself, right?
Yeah. I mean,
you're just not.
It's the same with the working out. You're never going to get big and jacked or healthy if you don't start working out. It's the same thing with public speaking. You're not going to get good at public speaking until you start public speaking. You can study all the comedians you want in the world, but until you actually
and get over yourself.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, if you suck, so what?
Yeah, practice.
That's part of your story of sharing later how bad you sucked. Like I look at the Facebook Lives I did when I first started. I got a business in 40 countries, this massive, massive multi-million-dollar empire all over the place. And guess what? I had 2 or 3 comments. Why? Because I sucked.
Yeah.
No one wanted to listen to me, but I committed to doing 2 to 3 lives a week. And that helped me become a better public speaker because you don't have a live audience where you see their eyes and you see their energy and you're like, oh my goodness, this person's excited or this person's sleeping. Yeah. And so I had to create this energy with no audience. And so that honestly right there, that was the practice that I think really made the most difference, was just getting on and doing lives. I don't care if you're getting on TikTok. I don't care if you're getting on the gram. I don't care if you're getting on Facebook. Yeah. I don't care where you're getting on. You just do it.
Yeah, I even need to do that more. I've heard a lot of people talk about lives. Because I feel like that's one way to really engage with your audience. How often do you go live? Do you do that anymore?
I still go live. A lot of times I'll do like private communities and different stuff now to make it exclusive. But I probably went for 5 years where I did about 3 a week.
Oh, wow. Nice.
Yeah. So
on Facebook?
On Facebook. And then I would do some on Instagram. And then a lot of times what I started doing is just recorded videos and I would repurpose it everywhere, right? It would be podcasts. It would be YouTube. It would be, on Instagram, and then it would be on Facebook. So it'd be one piece of content you could just repurpose everywhere.
Oh, wow. Wait, how did you just repurpose the whole thing or you clipped it?
No, I sometimes the whole thing and sometimes clip parts. So there's an app called OneStream.live.
Okay.
And OneStream.live, you can pre-record something and then you can stream it as if it is alive. So a lot of times I'd be out of the country or traveling. I'm like, I don't have time, but I want to be consistent. And so I would have that content go out, and it would go out as if it were alive. So
I didn't even know that was a thing. I knew you could like pre-record
alive.
Yeah, that's interesting. But is it? I mean, you probably have more experience with me, but I feel like because I have gone live a couple times, I like doing Q&As as well.
Oh yeah.
So I guess you can't really
no
do that with those.
And I like interacting with the audience when I can. It's just when you can't, right?
Yeah.
And sometimes you'll just interact with your audience, and then you'll just take that and download that.
Yeah.
And then you can take that and repurpose it in other places.
That's awesome. Well, to jump back to, because that was kind of a long spread out of kind of your journey and speaking and where you're at now. But I kind of want to dive into the entrepreneurship side of things, because I think a lot of people, especially nowadays, with social media and how public it is and how many, like, back even 10 years ago, you didn't see all these opportunities. Like, you didn't see all these people drop shipping. You didn't see all this happening. And so, like, I think there's this level now where especially teenagers see all these opportunities in entrepreneurship. But even like some of my close friends, as well as people I've seen online and people in my DMs, like they talk to me about this like dream of being an entrepreneur and like what they want to do. But I don't know if it's this fear, I don't know what it is. And that's kind of what I want you to define, like what you think, your perception of like why there's so many people that want to be entrepreneurs now, but why it's still close to the same rate as it was 10 years ago as entrepreneurs. I think there's probably a higher percentage of entrepreneurs, but like there's way more media on and way more information, but yet there's still that. And my perception is really based on fear. But I'd love to, I didn't know.
So as you know, you came and spoke. I've got, Cade, my son, and Kaya, 17, 15 years old. They started doing these teenage mastermind sessions just because I wanted to give them real schooling.
Awesome. It's so awesome
and
that you
so
did that. No,
it's
that's
super
so
cool to see the questions they ask, and it's kind of giving me insights on where they're at, maybe some of the things, why they don't do it, and some interesting conversations. And so I'll say this. I have them, and I had them do this once. I said, list out all your fears. So they started listing out all their fears. And it was the fear of failure, the fear of success, the fear of missing out.
Fear of success?
It's crazy. There's a lot of different, if you start studying, there's a lot of people just grow up with these limiting beliefs where they just don't feel like they deserve it.
Oh, fear of,
So,
okay.
But you list out all these fears that are mental fears, not physical fears, right? Fear of heights, I got that.
Yeah.
Okay. We're talking like mental fears.
Yeah.
And so I list them all out and just imagine all over the place on a whiteboard. And then in the middle, I have this circle that attaches to all of them. The mother of all fears is the fear of judgment.
Yep.
You remove people, you don't have the fear of the unknown with if I'm going to accomplish this or that, the fear of success, the fear of failure, the fear of rejection, the fear of missing out. It's the mother of all fears. And so the common theme with, I think now we've had 11 different speakers, including you, and a common theme has been you can't be too scared to fail. You have to fail forward faster to have more success. Stop worrying what everyone thinks. Now, that doesn't mean screw everyone.
Yeah. But
There's
it means
a
not
balance.
let those people.
I teach them, do your best and F the rest. And of course, the teenagers, I tell them the F stands for forget. Do your best and F the rest.
Yeah.
But as you're there, I tell them, like, you can't be scared. Like, go start a business and fail and say, screw it. I'm going to go do another one. And I'm going to do another one. I'm going to do another one. That's the first thing is keep trying.
That's really interesting. That I totally agree with you, but it's so much easier said than done, especially for that age group. Cause I remember I put myself back in my 15 to 17-year-old self shoes, and especially with high school.
Your cringy TikTok videos you don't want to tell anybody about.
Chill. No, but there was so much judgment from people that I felt. And I think it's really high school. Like you're around so many people, you see so many people, so you see so many eyes on you. And I think there's this like sense of just like everyone's watching, but no one cares. Like no one cares what you're doing. Like it's going to be their insecurities projecting themselves onto you. And that's kind of something like I always remind myself. I don't really care about people's judgment to me now, but like when I was kind of getting out of that phase, something I reminded myself was like, if they're not liking my message or they're going to hate on me, that's just their insecurity projecting them. They don't have they don't feel secure enough to start a business. They don't feel secure enough to do this. I'm not saying I'm comparing myself to them, but I'm not going to let their judgment affect me, because at the end of the day, it's not positive energy. It's just an insecurity. They're just pushing it on me because they don't want to do it themselves, or they don't want to feel that emotion. And so it's like kind of an excuse to them to be negative towards you. I don't know. Could you see that?
100%. There's a great quote that says, friends and family won't start celebrating you until strangers do.
Ooh.
And when you really think about that, it's true, because I can think of several people that were criticizing me and quitting the tennis club, and you got this like prestigious job, right? And now you're going to go do this and this. And then once I had success, they're telling everybody they always knew. And I'm like, dude, I can remember you specifically telling the neighborhood what an idiot I was. Like, I remember how bad it hurt.
Wow. Yeah.
It fueled me. That short-term fuel, though.
Yeah.
Because when we say revenge is the best success, I think that ultimately, if you want true success, you're not even worried about revenge. No. But it's a great short-term motivator. It's not a long-term one. And then I would say, as far as being an entrepreneur, especially if you're young, think about it this way. The older you get, the scarier it gets, because the more responsibility. I got 4 kids.
Yeah.
It'd be much scarier right now if I went all out and did something.
Yeah.
And so, especially when you're young, just make a commitment to fail more and look at failure as learning and getting closer to having that success. And the other thing I would say with that is, no matter what you're doing, make sure you invest as much as you can or are willing to. I don't care if it's crypto. I don't care if it's in the stock market. You obviously need to invest in yourself as well.
That's what I thought you were talking about.
But you have to invest. Mm-hmm. And one of the things that was really cool, my son said to me, because his investments are crushing it right now. He's in like all my investments. I'm like, these aren't real investments. Like, these are fast. This is too fast, man. And
I know it's kind of ruined me as well. I'm yikes.
It's intriguing though, because he said to me, we were just in Hawaii and we were just having a little chat, and he's like, Dad, I got to go do something. And like you said, like just work hard and get my butt kicked. Yeah. Because if you just invest and make money, then you're not really learning the skills and the things that you can rely on the most. It's not your college education degree. I'm not ripping a college education degree. Yeah. The thing you can rely on the most are the skills you develop and the network you create. Those 2 things are your best insurance policy. And so he knows that.
The skills you develop and the network you create.
Yep.
Yeah, 100%. Totally agree.
And so I'm always, as much as I can, networking and going to lunches and different things and connecting with people and creating these different types of communities, because I know the power of networking. Yeah.
No, I love that. I'm just curious how much, like with your money, how much percentage is in investments or whatnot. And also I'm curious, like, especially with this downturn, actually I'll get into that in a second, but like with your money, what percentages are kind of like, what percentages in cash, what percentages are investments?
Yeah. So I don't like to have more than 6 months worth of money in cash, personally, because I'd rather have my money working for me. Yeah. The other thing I look at is I also like to have some money in liquid investments, because it doesn't feel like I have it saved. And psychologically, let's just give an example. Okay. Let's just throw out random numbers. We'll go not low, not high, because it's all relative to, what one's net worth is. But let's just say you're 21 years old and you got 10 grand saved. Now let's say you have 50 grand saved. How much more are you probably going to spend if you have 50,000 in the bank versus 10? Right? A lot. Yeah. So instead, have the 10, take the 40 and invest it. And now it doesn't feel like it's your money, even though if some of it's in liquid investments. Now, liquid's just investments, whether it's crypto, stock market, right? Forex currency trading, doesn't matter what it is, and you can pull it out at any time. So that's a liquid investment.
Whereas like a real estate investment.
Whereas real estate, which I have 3 rental properties now currently.
I wanted to talk to you about.
And real estate is a lot more of, it's an asset that isn't liquid, right? Yeah. I've got cash flow on it. Mm-hmm. I've got equity in it. For me though, as well as there's some ways to save on taxes. with real estate. So it's more of a longer term, safer, conservative bet
Yeah.
that I'll put some money into. And then I've got, different type of things like, I invested into a couple of different types of companies as well. Now those could be 3 to 10 years where I finally see something. So those aren't liquid either.
What would your ratio be? Because you know Dan Fleischman, right? Mm-hmm. So I love his method, but I'm curious what your projection is of like, okay, so if you say you have your cash, which is your 6 months of cost, and then your other investments, what percentage do you put to liquid investments? What percentage do you put to stuff like real estate? What percentage do you put to like risky investments, like the one that we're both in?
Yeah. So that's a great question. I don't know if I know the exact percent on that, but I would say.
What would you say is like a fair judgment?
Yeah.
Like if people are, because, actually, yeah, I guess.
I think a lot of it depends on personality.
Yeah.
If you're someone that freaks out, high risk investments, you're going to put less into. If you're someone that you're like, okay, I like the higher risk investments, then I always say, okay, make sure that you take your profits out as soon as possible.
Yeah.
So you're just riding on house money, and then go diversify in other high risk investments. So that's what I do. For me,
Smart.
I'm emotionally, I don't get too high, I don't get too low. Like I'm just crazy chill. That's how I've always been. And I'm the same way with investments. So for me, I love doing I have my conservative investments I just talked about, but then after that, I've got enough of those that I'm more interested in the high risk investments. I just love them. Now, when they're high risk, I'm still doing my due diligence, right? I've done very well with them, but I will take the profits out of those and I'll diversify into other high risk investments.
Yeah.
And so it's like, even if 1 out of 4 of those take off, it makes up for the other 3.
No, I like that. I like that a lot. I think that's something I definitely, my goal with my high risks right now, and I guess, fortunate enough to have the possibility to do this, but I would say like for me, I want to get my money back. So if my money like doubles, get my money back, or say, it increases, whatnot. And then, so say I have 20K in, goes to 40, pull out 10, then it gets up to 40 again, pull out 10. And then now I have 30K that's like, wasn't my money to begin with. Then like diversifying from there, like if you want to take a more conservative route. But I love the idea, because I think I even need to do that, where it's like, if I have one risky investment, it's like, okay, we'll take that one risky investment from the profits, take the profits, and then go put it into 3 risky investments. Would you agree with, this is kind of my structure, and with the downturn, and I want to ask you what your plans are. Maybe I'll do that later in the episode, because I have some really important questions I want to ask you, but I want to ask you your question, or your kind of your plan for this like downturn and this recession.
Yeah.
Because that's something that I'm very passionate about. Like every day I spend probably too much time like studying this recession, and have some ideas. But would you say, so for people watching, that people are interested in investing in, getting into like easier investments that are safe, like S&P 500, probably wait 6 months for that, but like do that 40. So like 40%. This is kind of my ratio.
Yeah.
Dan Fleischman also talks about this. I think his is a little different, but like 40% in safe investments, 40% in like long-term investments.
Yep.
You can based on your personality, 30%, whatever you need. So that's going to be like 40% for me is going to be real estate. 40% is going to be like S&P, Forex, all the ones I feel comfortable in, safe in, that are going to provide itself over a year. It's going to create a percentage. It's going to increase. And then 20% doing a like risky type of stuff. I think for you, you're probably more on the like, you put more on the risk.
Yeah, and that's why I think there's no one size fits all. It completely depends on what one's personality is. I would say this: don't ever have more than 20% in one single investment, because if you put 50% of your money in this investment because you think it's the best investment, you never ever know.
Yeah,
you never know what's going to happen.
Put your what's the egg quote? Don't put all your eggs in one basket.
And so as you realize that, because it's always good to get caught up in the emotional moment, right? We're drama kings and queens. When things are going well, we think they're better than they really are. And when things are going poorly, we think they're worse than they really are. The next thing is S&P, that's a very safe, long-term investment that's been proven. Just bet on the overall market, right? Or go find some of the blue chip stocks that you believe in. But again, when you're getting in, don't get in and put money in quickly and then get out. They actually did. I think it was either Fidelity or Merrill Lynch. Just look it up. This incredible article, and look up the best investors are dead. And it will show that the people that died did the best at investing because they weren't trying to time the market.
Yeah.
They just kept it in and didn't panic. The S&P typically bakes in future declines sooner.
Yeah.
So usually after about 5 months, it's hit the bottom. That's on average. Whereas real estate, because it's not a liquid asset, you look at it and now it happened in 2008. It started to bottom out really 2 years later.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Nobody knows. S&P's probably close. Don't know, but based on history, it's close.
Yeah. I don't know. I think it's got another 20% to drop.
It could. Absolutely could.
Yeah.
100%. But then when you look at it from a macro view, right? What's 20% 10 years from now?
Totally.
And so it's like same thing when I look at like Bitcoin, it's right around 20,000 right now. And let's say 4 years from now, let's just say it's at 200,000.
Yeah.
It wouldn't matter if you got it in at 16 or 25.
Yeah.
So it's never catching the very bottom and never trying to get out at the top, right? If you are doing that, it's more
dollar cost
towards
just put it a little here and there.
Or it's just looking at it's close enough as you go. Real estate, typically it takes some time. And right now, it's not just that home prices are up. It's also interest rates are so high.
So high. Yeah.
I mean, you're paying 50% more for the exact same house right now.
Yeah. Well, so yes, 100%. And it does suck that the real estate is high, but my kind of, and this, I want to ask you your like, what you're doing, especially with investments, and then also real estate. But like my idea with real estate, I kind of got this from Graham Stephan. You know Graham Stephan? Really? Oh, he's big like real estate YouTuber, kind of an investment guy. But he kind of switched my mind on something, which was, say there's a home was 300K, you know?
Yeah.
It jumps up, you know, it's at 450K right now. And then, you know, in this economic downturn, it's not going to go back down to 300, but say it gets to like 320 or 350, you know, it drops 20%. But then you still have to do the 7% interest rate. And then, so if you are able to get that 20% discount, it's going to be, you know, the same price as, but basically at the end of the day, because after long term, it's going to be, because then interest rates go down, you know, the graphs show it's not going to stay at 7% forever, you know, It always ups and flows. So then if you get at 7%, then you reevaluate it, and then you get to 4%, and like
you refinance
it, and then
6 months or 2 years,
and then your
or whenever
payment goes down. You're renting
down.
it out, and then in 5 years, even probably 3 to 4 years, you know, you've doubled your initial investment, and you have a, you know, something that pays you every month. So that's kind of like my thought on the real estate, but I'm curious, do you have any plans or goals with this economic downturn in real estate, and as well as like investments, blue chip, or just normal stuff? Because I'm genuinely very curious, because I want to get in on specific
from a
things.
real estate standpoint, most of the people that I've talked to, they said wait until at least February.
I would wait even a little longer.
In my mind, I'm like thinking, and I don't know, these guys are better experts than me. They say at least. I'm thinking like next winter. I'm thinking November.
That's my
December, January is like my
Yep.
target, and from there, that's where I would love to swoop in. There's also cost segregation, which you don't need. You can just look it up, but it's a great way to offset a lot of future costs for taxes. And that's what other people don't realize, is just being an entrepreneur and doing some of these little things here. Even if you've got your job, it's a way to offset a ton of taxes. So you may not be making insane amount of money, but you're going to save that money, which is really the same as making it.
100%. That's why I always tell people, like, find a way to start some sort of a small business. Like, nowadays it's the easiest thing to start a small business, and like you can pull in, even if you pull in 500 to 2K a month on it, like what it could, and you create an LLC and what it can do for you in tax reasons. Like,
oh, I mean, I just went to Hawaii.
Yeah.
I took that
was a tax write-off?
Listen, everything's a tax write-off. All right.
Throw up a little Facebook Live.
No, like think about this. I do masterminds. I did my mastermind in Belize. I did my mastermind in Dubai. I'm doing one in Bora Bora. I've done one in Maui. Site survey. Who are my employees? My wife.
Yeah.
My 4 kids are all employees. They help out. So we all went there. Site survey, right? Site survey, baby. We're checking it out.
Yeah.
And so now we get to go there and let's go check
it.
out the helicopter tour. Let's go do, because I do this stuff, like legitimately do this stuff for masterminds. And so you find ways, like if you're a photographer or whatever.
Oh, yeah, photography.
And so there's so many things that you can do on the side where you can create it as a tax write-off where, you know, it's incredible. I mean, that was an expensive trip.
Yeah.
That was completely written off. So
amazing.
Those are things to think about as well.
Totally.
As you're building and doing.
No, true. Because I mean, like that's an investment in itself. Is like because like if you think about if you're gonna put $1,000 into the market or $1,000 into a small business, that small business can create you money that's gonna be 10x probably what the stock market would do, and then it also saves you on taxes. And so that's another thought. If you don't have a lot to put in.
And the other thing I would do, I'm gonna pull it out right now, is I would every single one of you just go search it up online and go search up compound interest calculator. Okay, so I always have mine out, and I did this at the Teenage Mastermind. I do this as well. So you have to look at opportunity costs. Now, it doesn't mean you don't have fun. You should have fun. But let's just say you're going to go buy that $500 pair of shoes and you don't make that much money. Okay? You're going to go buy, like, these shoes are a lot more than that. But I waited till I was... I waited till I was over... Yeah, big time.
What? I didn't know that.
I waited till I was over, like, 40. Okay, so full disclosure, like, making 7 figures year after year. So it's like, I teach them, but let's just say that you're putting so in, cool. I love let's just go like a standard monthly is low. Let's just say you're doing like, 2% a month. That's all you're making. And you take your $500 and instead of buying the shoes, you put it in and let's check it out what that $500 would be 10 years from now. And if we look at it, that $500, if you're making 2% monthly, which some people say that's high, some will say it's low, it's all relative. That's 10 years from now is worth $5,382. So your $500 pair of shoes cost you $5,382. Rich people think long-term, poor people think short-term. That's spiritually, financially, physically, mentally, and in all aspects of life. So
that's the best TikTok clip of the entire episode. I love that.
Don't become like too crazy where it's like, you're not going to ever do anything to enjoy. You need to reward yourself. But in many ways, I was taught, live like a peasant as much as you can, and someday you'll live like a king.
Oh.
And so...
That's another one. Another clip.
It takes time.
Yeah.
But as you do that, it helps you make better decisions.
Yeah.
Because everyone's so caught up right now in keeping up with the Joneses. Well, guess what? The Joneses are broke.
Yeah.
So stop trying to keep up with the Joneses next door to you to look good. Stop trying to look fake rich and instead become truly wealthy. My mantra is die with memories, not with dreams. I do 7 family vacations every single year because I want to spoil my kids with memories, not with possessions, where we have these experiences like I just talked about. I just got back from Hawaii yesterday morning from a red-eye flight, right? We went and swam with sharks. We did the helicopter tour, like stayed in an awesome resort, did fun things. For me, that was my purpose and vision with money. It wasn't, look at me, right? Like, who cares?
And that goes back to the whole thing out of fear. Like, stop caring what other people think.
Yeah.
And because when you stop caring what other people think, then when you do get success or you do find these things, it's not like you want to go blow money on a nice this, nice that, nice this, because you're not caring what like people project their judgments on you, because it's like, it's all you, and you'd rather have experiences. You'd rather do this with your family, rather this than that. But then you got to reward yourself, And
then you do have to always reward yourself, right? Everyone rewards themselves in
their own way,
in different ways. And sometimes people actually, it's funny, they feel guilty, and they create that mindset where they're never supposed to enjoy it, and then some of those people die wealthy where they never enjoyed it.
Yeah.
And so you have to have that balance of what's the purpose. And for me, I created that goal long ago. I also created the goal. I got 4 kids, 17, 15, 12, and 8. And we created the goal that when they turn 12, they go on a opposite gender parent trip, local trip. And when they turn 16, anywhere they want in the world, anywhere they want in the world. So Kate, I took him to Dubai for 2 weeks. We flew first class. We went skydiving. We went and rented some sick cars, some friends that had some sick cars. Like we did anything and everything that you could imagine. Guess what though? The coolest part was the memories and the connections. And since that trip, like before that trip, he'll tell you like we fought like a ton. And since that trip, like best friends. It was just him and I. My daughter, Kaya, she's going to be 16. She's going with mom and she's already planning a trip to Europe. I'm like, Europe's not a country. It's a continent, right? She's trying to game the system, but she's going with mom.
Going everywhere.
Yeah, my 12-year-old, I'm going with her in 3 weeks.
That's
on
awesome.
our trip. And then we created the goal as well as we said, this was when I was broke. I said, someday, I said, when we have kids and we have grandkids, I want to be able to take all the kids, the in-laws, as long as I like them, and all the grandkids on an all expense paid trip. Now, it doesn't sound like a big deal to me now, but at that time I was broke.
Like crazy.
And I'm thinking,
what's your goal with that?
Creating memories. Again, I want to be able to create experiences and memories where it's like, you know,
it seems
every
like you're
year.
very, very driven on experience and like memory based things. So I'm curious, what would you define success as? I would love to know, like, what is success in your eyes?
Success to me is a lot of different things. I look at it as the die with memories, not with dreams, is being able to spend time with the people that you love, how you want to spend time with them, and really just go fulfill with your talents. So one of my talents is tennis. I used to do it for a living. Now I get to come back. I get to coach both the boys and the girls high school tennis teams. And I plan a lot of my schedule around that. That's 25 hours a week, 6 months of the year.
What? 25 hours a week?
Yeah, we go to St. George. We go to, you know, we got all these trips.
That's
and
awesome.
different tournaments and stuff. But for me now, I don't have to worry about the money because I've been smart with the money that I make and invested it, and I do well, that now I get to really fulfill with my talents. And I get to create more memories. I mean, there was a study called the Valiant Study. It's the oldest study ever. It's these Harvard kids. I think it was about 270 Harvard undergraduates, and they studied them for over 70 years. And they studied what was the top cause of happiness. It wasn't money. It wasn't college degrees. It wasn't accolades. It wasn't awards. It was the amount of warm, this is what they qualified it as, warm relationships they had. So I look at that as just networking, because that's really just the human connection you create with other people. Because think about it, when you're on your deathbed, like you're not going to be like, dude, can you believe my house? It's not. I have a great house, but I have a house to create memories with people, right? I've got a fun car to create memories with people, but those things don't define me, right? You're not going to be on your deathbed. Oh, can you just believe my house? Go get that house, please. And don't misinterpret it, because people misinterpret that of, well, then money doesn't mean anything. That's a limiting belief, and that's BS.
The money is a gateway to then create more experiences with 100%. The people that you love, but it is the people
and help so many people and give so much and do so much.
Spread love in all aspects. I think a lot of people definitely get that misinterpreted. But no, I agree with that. So when would you say you would retire? Because do you have a number in your head?
I had a goal of retiring age 35. I'm 42. And I recreated that goal when I was in my late 20s of retirement means you don't have to work. It doesn't mean you don't work. And I started looking at all the billionaires and why aren't they retired? Because the definition of happiness is progress. And so you shift. At the beginning, you're in a learner phase, right? Go fail forward faster. Then you get into a lifestyle phase. And then eventually, more money is just more money. I mean, eventually it's like,
it's just a number.
I mean, whatever your number is, my number, if I made an extra $400,000 this year, it wouldn't affect my life at all. If I made an extra $1 million, it wouldn't even affect my lifestyle at all. I would just invest it and it could be future stuff. But it wouldn't change anything. So eventually it turns into legacy. So learner, lifestyle, and then eventually it's legacy. And so for me, part of that legacy is, right, coaching high school tennis for fun and doing stuff like that. So I actually don't have a number. I love what I do. And, you know, more and more I've been deliberate with my time. So I did create a challenge, and eventually you'll get there. And the challenge was, can I double my income? I did this last year and work just 20 hours a week.
And did you do it?
I didn't do it. my income went up by 60%.
Hey, that's
And
you only work 20 hours?
I work 20 hours a week. And this year I will make about the same as last year. And this year on average, I'm sub 15 hours a week.
Wow.
So now it's being more deliberate, because time's the most valuable thing we have on this earth. Being more deliberate with my time, who I spend my time with, how I spend my time, doing what I want when I want.
Do you think, I'm genuinely just curious, do you think that, so say you're doing 15 hours a week right now, do you think if you bumped that and you say you'd not stop doing tennis, but did tennis less, if you doubled that to 30 hours a week of work, do you think you could so how much was your percentage that you'll increase this year?
So this year it's lowering the hours, and I'm actually about the same.
Okay, so say 60%. Do you think if you doubled it to 30 hours, do you think you could get it to 100% or 120%? Or
I definitely could get it higher if I worked more.
But that's not important to you.
It's not.
Because it's not going to change.
And
your
there's
life.
also a point of, if you're always just in chasing more money, and you went through this, eventually it's always more.
Yep.
So you have to create a purpose of why are you making more?
Yeah.
And then eventually I created a purpose of, you know what? I worked this hard so I could spend this time with all these people that I love. So now how can I make a little bit more or a lot more, but work less? And so at the beginning, think of this. You just do everything you need to, right? You got no time allotment. It's just get things done.
Yeah.
Then it's the 80-20 rule. 80% of your time on the 20% most important tasks. Then eventually, this isn't talked about, it's 90-10, and eventually it's 95-5. I'm at about 95-5. My goal is to spend 99% of my time, my business time, on the 1% most important tasks. I'm 95-5 right now.
Okay. Oh, I haven't heard that. I like that. That's really interesting. So wrap things up a little bit. I came with this question on my drive back from St. George last week. I haven't asked anyone this question except for Woody.
And
it's probably my favorite question I've ever come up with. And the question is, what is the most controversial thing that you are most confident about?
Ooh. The most controversial thing, like a belief.
It could be about money. It could be about politics. It could be about family. It could be about gender. Like it could be anything. Like just something that I would say majority, and kind of just explain your thing on that. You know, I've heard so I've asked two people actually, but the other person that I asked talked about religion and his views on religion. And why he doesn't like religion, and so that was very insightful. So I think a lot of people. And if you're listening and he says something you don't agree with, just try and listen. I think the reason I want to start asking this question more often is because we live in such a society of cancel culture. Instead of just listening to people, if someone does something, kills someone, cancel culture, but cancel culture for the thing of sharing their opinion about something, but not listening to why they have that opinion. I think it's not cancel culture. You're just insecure and can't listen. So
I would say initially, and I don't think this is controversial anymore, and then I'm going to give a second one, so I'll give this one first quickly, is, initially it definitely was the schooling system. I just always knew I was going to make it without school. And I was told that was arrogant, that was cocky, it was overconfident. I'm like, what do you mean?
Yeah, back in that time, it probably was really...
I was like, I'm going to work my butt off. I'm not saying it's going to be easy. In some ways, it's going to be harder. But in my mind, I felt like in many ways, schooling's great because it teaches discipline. But in other ways, it became a fail-safe where people didn't fail forward as much because they were so comfortable that they stuck and stayed.
Follow the line.
Right? And so that was the first thing. And so now it's just education, it's learning. I would say second thing that's come to my mind, I've never really expressed this or thought this, and I don't think it's really controversial if you think about it, but I want you to think about right now the group of people that you either hate or you can't stand. Politics, religion, maybe you're pro or anti-vax, whatever it is. Almost every single one of those people, if you hung out with for 2 days, you'd like them a lot. And I think
even if you were the opposite view.
Yeah. And I think people get caught up in the differences, and they don't realize most of those people, if you don't focus on the differences and you focus on a lot of the commonalities, and you start finding most humans are so similar, and you'll find a lot of things like, oh, this person's actually funny, or like their personality, I just disagree with their views. We judge other people by their actions. We judge ourselves by our intentions. And when you get to know someone pretty well, you know their intentions. Because I can think of people that I know personally, I completely disagree with many of their views, but when we hang out, we get along so well. And it softens me up instantly. Yeah, they just think differently, and that's okay.
Yeah.
But then you leave and you start seeing them making all these posts that are like completely anti of what you believe or think, and you get all riled up again because then you're fixated and focused on the differences. And that's what a lot of social media is done. You know, I love social media because I block, unfriend, unfollow anyone that takes away from me. And so for me, it's like, I love it. I get on, I love it, I love it, I love it.
Yeah.
But when you get caught up and sucked into that black hole,
Comparison.
yeah, you're comparing and you're focused on
beliefs.
100% on the differences. And that's what makes us human.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, 100%. I mean, it's a yin and yang, and people kind of just get focused on their black or white, and it's like they don't see the other viewpoint and how it can kind of all spiral together.
Yep.
No, I love that, and super grateful to have you on. There was one more question I wanted to ask you, and then I'll wrap up. But so you were talking about how that you met this guy, and you had the iPod, and you listened to like 18 books in 6 months. I want to know, and I love asking people this because I'm a big book guy. I've been trying to get more into it. Like every day I like Audible. I've started to like Audible a lot more. I used to be only hardcover because I could get my focus.
Yep.
But now when I'm cleaning or I'll cook, like I just love to listen to Audibles. I'm reading right now. I'm reading Man's Search for Meaning, and then reading
Great one.
Start with Why.
Yeah.
Start with Why.
Simon
Start with Why.
Sinek.
Yeah, good book. So I'm curious, what has been 1, 2, or 3 like your top books that have affected you? Or let's do 2. The one that has helped you the most and affected you the most, and then a one for the audience, like a recommendation to kind of like kickstart that entrepreneurship mind or that fear mind to like kind of let go and pursue their dream.
Yeah, a couple come to mind. I mean, I've read in the last 15 years over 1,100 books.
Wow, that's awesome.
Like I was obsessed with Audible.
Yeah.
Whereas anywhere I was going, like working out at the gym or driving in the car at night, and it's because I wasn't overconfident. I was the opposite. I wanted the confidence, so I borrowed from them.
Yeah,
I'm like,
absorb it.
yeah, breathe it into me, please. So I had those virtual mentors. The first one that comes to mind that was written a couple years ago is Atomic Habits. That one is a must read. I mean, that's like 99% of people that read that will love it. It will teach you how to really just create the right habits, do anything you want to do. So that one's an incredible, incredible book. From an entrepreneur standpoint, there's lots and lots of different books. I like Darren Hardy's The Entrepreneur Roller Coaster because he'll give you just really what it is and what it takes as an entrepreneur and give you perspective, which I think is one of the most important things when you're starting a business, understanding the perspective. Most businesses fail in the first 5 years. Most don't turn a profit for 3 years. Like this gives you perspective. There's nothing wrong with you. Just fail forward faster as you go. And the last, I'm going to give you this huge, huge, simple hack. You want to learn faster because the ability to learn how to learn is the greatest ability one can have. Leonardo da Vinci was the most talented man to walk this earth. Inventor, sculptor, painter, scientist, everything. Because he had the ability to learn how to learn. If someone else can do it, you can do it. It may take you longer, but you can do it, especially in the information age. So pick a theme and become obsessed and hyper-focused. Because when you have a theme, and I'll give you an example, then you're listening and learning with intent. So you'll absorb much more. So for example, 1 month, and it could be a week, it could be a month, it could be 3 months, just depends on the theme. 1 month I studied sleep. So literally every single book and blog and podcast I listened to was on sleep. Another month it was on energy. Another month it was just on networking. Another month it was on sales. And so I listened, even no matter what book I was listening to, I was listening with intent and a theme, and I was able to absorb much more.
I think I definitely need to do that because I kind of, especially with books, I jump like my Audible. I'm downloaded a book like every other day, but I'm not finished. I have just a list of downloaded books that
sounds like your dad.
Yeah,
he reads 2 chapters, he's done.
Yeah, no, I'm the same way. And so I think that's the issue is I'm reading Man's Search for Meaning, and then I'm also Start with Why. Those are kind of similar, but like one's a little bit more business oriented and like talks about that, and then one's more just like meaningful and just like that. And then so I'm like kind of wishy-washy on all this stuff, and then I'm watching podcasts with like Jay Shetty, and it's all about meditation and all this stuff, and then so I'm just like my brain's all over the place. So so you would say month after month pick a theme, or week after week?
It depends
on the person.
Yeah, it depends on the person. It depends on the theme.
How much you're consuming.
Some may take longer. Usually a month's a good time frame.
I like that. Awesome. Well, okay, then last thing, what's your favorite quote or last message for the audience? That's something that like stuck with you, or something to like last little bit of inspiration of a
Successful people just do the basics better. Think about that in all aspects of life. I'm not a great golfer, but you go watch them, and where do they start out putting from? They start out putting from, 2-3 feet away. Whereas the amateurs go and they try to sink putts from 10, 20, 30 feet. Go watch SportsCenter. You watch SportsCenter, you'll see all the highlights of the games that were won and lost. It was because of the most basic things that they learned when they were 7, 8, 9, 10 years old. Successful people just do the basics better. That applies for entrepreneurs. That applies for marriages and relationships and all aspects of life. And so we like to complicate things, but you've got to master the mundane. You've got to master the boring and go do those basics better and better and better.
Amazing. Thank you so much for coming on. It was a pleasure having you. If you're not already subscribed, you know the deal. Just subscribe. It's been 3 weeks, but we're going to get back on the consistency of posting one every week. And make sure you turn those notifications on. I hope you guys found some value from this podcast episode. I've personally created a lot of value from this episode. So tune back in next Tuesday. I love you all. Have an amazing day and chase your dream. Peace out.